Okay, so I'm responding to a comment that was literally made like 21 minutes ago. I seem like a comment demon, but I just happened to open my YouTube because I was gonna paste two videos anyway. Post. No, I said paste. Um, so let's see what you have to say. Brother, your mental gymnastics won't work here. The verse where the rapist, I don't know why you didn't say rapist, dies in the case of the betrothed woman. While the verse where it says woman must marry their own rapist, it is the case when the woman is not betrothed. The word tafis refers. Okay, so it's interesting you mentioned that. Again, this is the reason why we have translations, not versions, because there are some translations that are word for word and thought for thought. So what that means is this. There are going to be times they just use words that just seem to, at the time, just make sense to use because it's them trying to go word for word instead of thought for thought. When you go word for word instead of thought for thought, translations get weird. And then we look at the different translations, like, okay, well, it's clear why they did that, as opposed to just saying this. So let me give an example if we're just saying something because it doesn't make sense to just say anything like that. Like, I have to give an example. So here, I'll just give you a simple one. Okay, so here's a simple one. Hello, the day is hot and I feel warm. Bonjour, il fait chaud. Aujourd'hui, c'est chaud. Right? So again, if we switch this around, that's not what it originally was. You can simply see there that's not what it originally was. Right? When you take older languages like Hebrew, um, Greek, and other languages as well, there are some words that just don't exist in certain languages. They don't exist, right? You mentioned the word tafas, which tafas has always been aggressive. But again, this doesn't mean that it's rape. And this sounds crazy to say, but listen to what I'm saying. There are a lot of words that didn't exist back then that exist now. And that's just from when it comes to English, French, Japanese, Chinese, Greek, a lot of them, right? And again, the Bible clearly makes note of what rape is and isn't, because if you read the Bible, it specifically tells you of cases where someone is raped. If you go back all the way to Exodus, no, it would be Genesis. If you go back to Genesis, and specifically Genesis around 30, I think it was Genesis 33. Um, Let me check and see. There's specifically a case where it makes it very clear this woman was raped, as opposed to it saying she was having sex with him and she consented, right? Jacob's flocks increase. Yes, so Jacob, this is a perfect example. Jacob from Laban. Jacob pursues Laban. Jacob meets Esau. Esau. So, Dinah and the Schemites. Now, Dinah, the daughter of Leah, had been born to Jacob, went out to visit the woman of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke to her tenderly. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." When Jacob had heard his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock, so he did nothing about it until they came home. Now, this is clearly not a situation of her agreeing to have sex with him and vice versa. This was clearly unconsensual. Now, it uses the same word rape here, but again, there are other translations that probably will use a different word. So, again, this isn't me jumping through mental gymnastics. This is me just using common freaking sense. Like, use your freaking brain. It doesn't make any sense that the God of the universe would allow rape in any situation. That doesn't make any sense at all. And by allow, I don't mean allow it to happen. Clearly, it's going to happen, but it doesn't make sense that he would condone that. Especially when he specifically just said in that entire book that you should not be having sex with someone outside of marriage. Like, it's just common sense. It's common sense. And I'm not trying to belittle you. I'm trying to generally make that make sense to you. I don't know if I can, because you clearly have something that's already built in your mind that it doesn't make common sense. Again, this is clearly a situation where it's talking about that she's actually been raped. And we know that because of how Jacob reacts. When Jacob heard that his daughter, Dinah, had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock, so we did nothing about it until they came home. Now, we also know that this wasn't a situation of them being consensual, because what the brothers proceeded to do, which they didn't need to do, but they did it, which is understandable why they did it, they went and killed every man in that city, nation, because their sister was raped. As opposed to in Deuteronomy, where it's talking about the fact that she is consent. Like, again, let me just go to a different translation, because like there are translations that don't use the word rape, since this is clearly what you're so stuck on. Let's go to, what was that, Deuteronomy? Yeah, Deuteronomy, and then it would be 28, I believe. 28, yeah, 28 verses, or no, 22, sorry, 22. And there are going to be plenty of translations that do use the word rape and don't use it. And again, that's what word for word and thought for thought is. When you're going word for word, you're just going the best you can with the words that are given. You're literally just taking the word and translating it to the closest word it has, which when you do that, you can lose meaning. It can be harder to understand what the original context was or what the original topic was entirely trying to produce, as opposed to thought for thought. A thought for thought translation is going to be, okay, I see what it says here, but I'm going to change up a bit because that isn't going to make sense when I move over to English, which you can trace that in any language. Spanish, French, Italian, German, what else? Greek, Japanese, Chinese, uh, Vietnamese, so many different languages. Um, so again, let's look at this in a different translation. This is NIV. This is the new international version. Um, let's go to KJV. KJV will probably use it because it's KJV. But let me see. You're gonna okay. And seizes. No, it doesn't even use it actually. So if a man finds a young woman who is a virgin who is not betrothed, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are, and then again another thing, they are found. You wouldn't say they are found if someone is getting raped. You say they are found when they're both having sex consensually. I would never sit there and say they are found if I'm talking about someone who is being unconsensually assaulted. That doesn't make any sense. It's just common sense. It's not mental gymnastics. It's just common sense. Again, does it make any sense at all that the God of the universe, who didn't condone people having sex outside of marriage, would completely condone a man raping a woman? I want you to think about that. Would the all good God allow that? Like, seriously, use your brain. Use it. He gave you that for a reason. You're a smart person. I know you are. You're a smart person. I know you are. Use your brain. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. Especially because there are plenty of situations in the Bible where women are raped and it's not okay. And these people are punished for that. Again, I go back to Genesis, what was that, 34, 35? No, that was 36, wasn't it? 37? No. It was 34. Yeah, 34. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah. Now, let's read the rest of this. But the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, and spoke deceitfully. Or actually, no, let me go back up here. Sorry, I missed a bit. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his livestock in the field. So Jacob held his peace until they came. Then Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. And the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved and very angry. They wouldn't be grieved or very angry if their sister just had consensual sex with someone. Maybe they'd be grieved, but they wouldn't be angry. And they wouldn't be angry at him because she consented to that. She clearly did not consent to this. But Hamor spoke with him, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to me as his wife. Which is crazy because one of two things. Either the father knew that his son raped her, or he didn't know his son raped her. So either he lied to his father or his father knew. Either way, it's crazy. Anyway, he tells him, hey, my son wants your daughter. Can he please have her? Please, he longs for her, right? The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife and make marriage with us. Give your daughters to us and take your daughters to yourselves. So you shall dwell with us and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade in it and acquire possessions for yourselves in it. Then Shechem said to her father and her brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me I will give. Ask me ever so much dowry and gift, and I will give according to what you say to me. But give me the young woman as a wife. But the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father and spoke deceitfully because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. And they said to them, we cannot do this thing. I'm going to skip all past this. They lied and said, oh, we can't do that because you guys aren't circumcised. You guys aren't, you guys aren't circumcised. We can't, no. You guys got to get circumcised first. So they had every man in that city, in that area, get circumcised. Then, 3 days later, when the men were still in pain from circumcision, they killed them all because they weren't happy with what happened. Now, were they justified in doing that? No. But it's understandable why they did that, right? Jacob is upset by this because he says, hey, guys, you just screwed us over majorly because everyone's going to know what you just did. If they come and attack us, they'll kill us all. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you are troubling me by making me obnoxious among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And since I am few in number, they will gather themselves together against me and kill me. I shall be destroyed, my household 9. And the brothers said, but they said, should she treat our sister like a harlot? So clearly that was not an interaction, that was consensual. As opposed to the interaction that is clearly being described when it uses the word they are found in, what is that? That's Deuteronomy. Because that would have been, yeah, Deuteronomy 22, verses 28 through 29. I don't know why I spelled 2 U's. But again, it's not mental gymnastics, it's common sense. You literally, in perfect example, I saw another translation that didn't use the word rape at all. So again, there's thought for thought, there's word for word. There are plenty of translations that use word for word because they find that to be the better way, and there's plenty of translations that use thought for thought. That's why we have them, so we can say, oh, wait, that doesn't make any sense, and oh, okay, I see now. If you're going to logically question the God of the universe, do some digging. Don't just look at stuff and just make an instant thought, because you wouldn't do that with another story. If you went and read the Hunger Games and read a page where Katniss randomly murdered somebody, funny word, murdered, then you'd be like, oh my gosh, Katniss is an evil person. But if you read the whole book, you're saying, oh, okay, well, Katniss had to do that because her life, it was her or them. She was in a Mortal Kombat type situation where she was against 20 other people And if she doesn't kill them, they kill her. When you read something out of context, and on top of the fact, when you don't read it and actually try to focus on what it's talking about, and you just kind of sit there and be like, oh, it has to be talking about this, you look, never mind. You don't understand what you're reading, is the simple answer to this. And I'm sorry you think that the God of the universe would just condone sexually assaulting people and raping them, especially when there are plenty of situations in the Bible where that happens and he's not happy about it. Like, for example, it would be 2 Samuel or 1 Samuel, where David's daughter is raped by her brother because he just has an immense love for her. It's 1 Samuel. I don't know why I typed it like that. Let me actually just type Samuel. 2 Samuel 2, Book of Samuel 1. And let me actually look up where that is. But anyway, 1 Samuel. Let me just look it up. David's daughter raped Tamar. Was it? Yeah, it was Tamar raped by her brother. And again, this is a situation where it's very clear that this was not a consensual thing, mostly because of how the buildup works. David's son talks to his Tamar. Yeah, Absalom and Tamar. 2 Samuel chapter 13. 2 Samuel chapter 13. So Amon and Tamar. After this, Absalom, the son of David, had a lovely sister whose name was Tamar, and Amon, the son of David, loved her. Amon was so distressed over his sister Tamar that he became sick, for she was a virgin, and it was improper for Amon to do anything to her. But Amon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother. Now Jonadab was a very crafty man, and he said to him, "Why are you, the king's son, becoming thinner day after day? Why not tell me?" Amon said to him, "I loved him, my brother Absalom's sister." So Jonadab said to him, "Lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. And when your father comes to see you, say to him, 'Please let my sister Tamar come and give me food and prepare food in my sight, and then I may see it and eat it from her hand.'" Then Amon lay down and pretended to be ill. And when the king came to see him, Amon said to the king, "Please let Tamar, my sister, come and take me a couple of cakes for me in my sight, and then I may eat it from her hand." And David said to home to Tamar, saying, "Now go to your brother Amon's house and prepare food for him." So Tamar went to her brother Amon's house, and he was lying down. Then she took flour and kneaded it and made cakes. And he said, So again, this is the whole build-up of the fact that he planned to sexually assault her and rape her. And then I'll skip to this part specifically, verse 10. Then Amon said to Tamar, "Bring the food in the bedroom, so I may eat from your hand." And Tamar took the cakes with the seed he made it and brought them to Amon and her brother in the bedroom. And now when she had brought them in, he took them. So come to, yeah. And he said, "Come and lie with me, my sister." So this is him asking her to do it. And then after that, but she answered him, "No, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing should be done in Israel. Do not do this disgraceful thing. And I, where could I take my shame? And as for you, you would be like one of the fools in Israel. Now, therefore, please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you." Now, this is clearly her trying to like wiggle out of this. She doesn't want this to happen. This isn't her actually saying that her father, King David, will let this happen. He would not let that happen. That's exactly why he doesn't have, like, again, would this have been a normal thing? He wouldn't have had to craft and scheme this. Would rape have been condoned by God? He would not have to scheme for his father to bring his sister to make him food so he could rape her, so he could assault her, so he could have sex with her and assault her. Does that sound like something that's normal to you? Does that sound like something that's condoned from God? Mind you, because this happened, his brother killed him later on because he found out that he did this and raped his sister. So, again, I just don't understand where on the lines of reading the Bible, which you definitely didn't do, you thought that rape was condoned by God. Just read the Bible. Or don't read it at all. If you're going to have an opinion on something, read it. Whenever I debate somebody about something like transgenderism or anything that I don't agree with, I actually read about it. I read about it. Which, if you watch this far in the video, I'm actually surprised if you did. I don't know. It's very difficult to watch someone tell you you're wrong. I know that because I had to do that a lot in my life. I had to sit there and watch someone tell me how I was wrong, and I learned from it. So I hope you learn from this. And I hope you read the Bible and actually understand it instead of just trying to find things that simply just look bad. In the day, because there's a lot of things you can look. There's a lot of things in the world you can do and find that look bad. Like if you want to sit there and talk about condoning of stuff, you know what? America condones prostitution as long as it's done within a certain degree. America condones gambling. Since we want to talk about things that are condoned and things that are allowed by God, look it up. We condone prostitution. We condone gambling. Or let me say this: we don't condone it. We regulate it. That's a better way to say it. Yeah, we regulate it. We regulate it. Right. And again, God wasn't regulating or condoning rape. He was saying that if you do it, you're going to die for it because you have no right to try to take that from somebody. Right? So, again, go ahead and look up how we have regulations for prostitution in America and gambling. And in other countries, they don't even have regulations. They just kind of let it happen. But besides the point. So, again, read, understand, and then ask questions. And then, up top of that, if you don't understand what you're reading, actually just look up questions. Like, look it up. This is a book, not a project. Like, okay. Anyway, again, let's just read your comment one more time to make sure we understand this. Brother, your mental gymnastics won't work here. The verse where the grape, or where the, I don't know why you use to say the word, but for the sake of just staying true to what you said, the verse where the grape dies is the case of betrothed woman, while the verse where it says women must marry their own rapist. And again, here's something else I don't think you just don't understand. You don't have to marry him. You don't have to marry him. She doesn't have to say yes. She can say no. Now, the reason why God introduced that is because back then, unfortunately, people the way they are, if they heard you had sex with anyone, whether you were raped or not, they didn't want to have sex with you. They didn't want to marry you. So that was saying that, and let me actually go to the verse too. Deuteronomy. You'll notice, and that's another thing. People will say, "Oh, well, God says you have to marry your rapist." He does not say it at all. Right? Matter of fact, if you're raped, that person will be killed. Right? This verse is specifically talking about a hookup. It's talking about a one-night stand. It's talking about a hookup. That's what it's talking about. That's clearly what it's talking about. That's why this man can't just have sex with her and just go free, because he's defiled her. Defiled her in the sense that and here's the thing, people will find out because people just do. It's not something you can easily hide. People will find out, and if people find out that she's just slept with someone, they're not going to see her as a potential wife anymore. She's going to be alone and a widow. And not even a widow. She won't even have a husband. She won't even, like, again, women, unfortunately, in this time period, were not valued. God did value them, though. So he put regulations in place that if they had, for some reason, and again, here's the crazy part. The woman's kind of getting off free here. If a man finds a young woman who's a virgin, who's not betrothed, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are found, then the man who lay with her shall give to the young woman's father 50 shekels of silver, and shall be his wife, because he humbled her. He shall not be permitted to divorce her all his days. So this is meant to protect her. Because here's the thing. Back then, in that time period, if people caught you having sex and you weren't married, one, they knew that was sin. But second, no one's going to want to marry you after that because you're promiscuous. No one wants to marry a promiscuous woman. So, that being said, this is stopping the man from enticing her, from seducing her. This is stopping the man who seduced her from just going and leaving her, because he's taking something from her that's valuable, more valuable than it is to him, to her, right? More valuable to her than it is to him, right? As a man, you could have sex with multiple women, unfortunately, back then, just like how you can today, and people won't turn an eye to it. That's been a thing for thousands of years, unfortunately. People think that it's worse when a man has sex with a woman, or worse when a woman has sex with a man than when a man has sex with a woman, right? Men are praised for it, women are degraded for it, which isn't okay. We can't, that's unfair in every way, right? But basically, long story short, I don't want to make this too long, because I know you have probably other things to do that you want to do, and you probably already skipped out the video, but long story short story, again, this was made to punish the man for what he did. And it's kind of funny, because again, God's being really, really nice here. She could and should get punished too, but he understands that the shame that she's going to face for this in the first place is enough. And he wants her to still be able to prosper in society, even if she's made a mistake, a serious mistake. Now, the man, he's meant to be leading women. Men are meant to be leading. So this is something he should have never even considered doing. Right? That's why he's paying 50 shekels of silver. She can say no, but if she says no, she's not going to get a husband. No one's going to want to marry a woman who's promiscuous. That remains true then and today. Now, again, it's different today because people don't really care about promiscuity nowadays. You can say you have 50,000 bodies and some people won't care. A lot of people will care, but not everyone will care. You could possibly still get a husband or a boyfriend or whatever if you've had 10 bodies, 5 bodies, 3 bodies, 7 bodies, right? That's still possible. But in this time period, that wasn't a thing. If you had sex and someone found out you had sex before marriage, you were considered promiscuous and they didn't want that. You were trouble. So, in this case, this is God helping the woman. She can say no. She can 100% say no. She's not forced to do this, right? You need to actually look up each in context of these laws. Because the thing is, again, just look up these laws and look up explanations of these. Because they are people who have gone and done the research for you who will tell you how these laws worked. Because they have studied this stuff for years. Because they had the same questions you did. There's no way the God of the universe who's just would just let people rape them, right? Oh my gosh, no, he doesn't. He did it because he understood that women were not valued back then, and he's trying to help them. Even when they made a wrong mistake of having sex with a man who they shouldn't have been having sex with. Like, just read, bro. Or just ask questions. Now, I will say, I'm actually glad you commented, because now we can get this out of the way. I'm glad you commented. I am. But that's my response to you, man. I'm sorry it took 20 minutes, but I feel like this is a serious thing that you should understand. So, yeah. God bless you, man. Praying for you.